Hello fiber friends, me Helene back with a new tutorial today of my hairband slash ear warmers. This is the one that you may have seen me wear here from time to time, and recently several people asked about it, so decided to go ahead and work up a tutorial for you. I made this at least 6 years or so ago, so I updated a little bit and made it even better and worked out the numbers so it's more flexible, versatile for different head sizes and a couple different types of yarn. Alright, so I'll start at the top. This is a chunky, light, bulky weight, so you can go up to that, and this is worked in a J 6mm hook. This is Malabrigo Mecha, M-E-C-H-A. That gives a really nice texture, which, by the way, all the texture is on the outside, okay, and the inside is smooth. And the nape in the back is tapered, all right, so you don't have all that extra bulk right in the back of your head. With my curly hair, anything with a lot of bulk in the back pushes my hair up in a really weird way, and I wind up looking like a mushroom head. So that was my solution for that. And this, because I've had it so long, I don't know, I bought it at a little yarn shop years ago in the clearance bin. It was just one small ball of it, and it's 100% superwash wool, and it's a tapestry type of yarn, so it gives this kind of random effect here. And this is Caron Blossom Cakes. It's a cotton acrylic blend, and I worked all the number 4 weights, and there are a couple more that I want to show you here that I did some swatches on. I did all those in an I 5.5mm hook, and that's what I'm going to use today. I suggest, though, if you go in something that is a light, bulky, chunky type weight, just stick with a J 6mm hook, or you can go down to the eye if you want the stitches closer together, and depending how the yarn works up, how tight or open the stitches become when you work them. So if you like this yarn and you got your hands on some K&C yarn from Joann in their splendid, the 100% superwash merino, I think this would work really well also, and it actually does call for a J 6mm, but I tested another one in a different stitch, and an I worked fine, 5.5mm for that also. And then I did a couple of other swatches. This is Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn in Sage Advice, I think it's called. I started it out, and you can see how it tapers, and how we begin with this is we start with one end from the center nape of your neck, graduate up, and then right behind your ears, that's where we stop our increases, and then work all the way around to the other end to go around your ears to the back of the other side, and then we do a little bit of decreasing. Doesn't take much at all, and it's great especially if you have just a small amount of yarn. And then one of the Joann Big Twist Vortex I picked up recently in Northern Lights. I did a little swatch here, and also in an I 5.5mm, and they all worked up pretty much the same at about 3.5 inches wide on the number 4 weight, which can have quite a range. And then these two are at the lighter end, and both of these come in at about 3.25 inches. And this one in the Caron Blossom Cakes is called Radiant Rainbow. It depends what season that you're going into, which these are great, I think, for this transitional season going from winter to spring, or anytime there's a chill in the air. Really, they're nice for washing up at night. I use them to keep my hair out of my face, or just as a regular hairband too. Oh, and you can work them as is without a border. I think they look just fine like that. You can add just a simple slip stitch all the way around, which is what I did on this, the first one I made. And then I have a really nice little stitch, a standalone video tutorial for that, and I'll leave that in the drop down description section. It's the extended crab stitch that I just did playing around one night. It creates a nice look without the extra bulk. So if you want just a little finishing edge on that. And for this demo, I'm going to work in Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn also, working through my stash. Color Hot Orchid number 111. Very pretty, been into this color lately. And then I thought would be cute, this one is called Lollipop Love, that you could do something either in a solid and then border it if you want to add a little border in a color that works back to it, or vice versa. You can do it in the all multicolor and then border it in a solid. Make a slip knot. Just leave a short tail at the end. Chain 6. And I'm also working in the I 5.5 millimeter, alright? And working into the back bump, single crochet in the second chain from the hook. That first skip chain does not count as a stitch. And then single crochet in the back bump of each 4 remaining chains across. That gives you 5 single crochet. Okay, so that is row 1. Row 2, chain 1 and turn. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch. And now single crochet through both loops of your first single crochet into the back loop only across the next 3. In each stitch, back loop only up to the last, and in the last, single crochet through both loops. Okay, so that is row 2. Row 2 is the wrong side of the work, and if you need to mark your right and wrong side to begin, you can take a stitch marker and put that on the front of your work. The front of your work, your tail will be on the bottom left. Okay, so you're going to repeat row 2, working in any of these number 4 medium weights that I showed you, whether it be a little bit lighter or a little bit thicker, to 1.5 inches. Okay, and then stop. If you're working in a chunky weight yarn, the light chunky that I showed you, then you work only to 1 inch and then stop. Okay, so again, chain 1 and turn, single crochet through both loops of the first, single crochet in the back loop of each across up to your last, and through both loops of the last. Both loops of the first, back loop across, and then single crochet both loops of the last. And you want to end on the wrong side of the work, so after you've done maybe 4, okay, measure it, and that is exactly 1.5 inches, and I am on the wrong side of my work. Okay, so stop there. And then now we are going to start our increases. Okay. All right, still working the rib stitch, chain 1 and turn, place 2 single crochet through both loops of the first stitch, single crochet in the back loop again across up to the last, and place 2 single crochets in the last. Okay. So that is row 3, and then now row 4, chain 1 and turn, no increases this time, single crochet through both loops of the first and then in the back loop, single crochet in each across up to the last again. And you single crochet through both loops of the last. You should have 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we're going to repeat rows 3 and 4 again. Okay. To do another increase, chain 1 and turn. 2 single crochets through both loops of the first. 1 single crochet in the back loop only of each across up to your last. And 2 single crochets through both loops of your last. Okay. And now you should have 9 single crochets. And this is where an extra stitch marker might come in handy, because the increase at the end, the beginning end, tends to lean a little bit down, so don't accidentally miss that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright, so that was our increase row, row 3 again, which is the right side of the work. And now row 4, chain 1 and turn, single crochet through both loops of the first, back loop in each across, with a single crochet through both loops of your last, and you should still have 9 single crochets. Okay, now here's both loops. There we go. It's good to double check. Make sure. It's important, because that's going to get us up to the stitch count for the pattern, main pattern itself. Alright, so one more increase, and then we're going to stop after the next row, just with the increase row on the right side of the work. We're not going to work row 4 that we just did, where it's all single crochets across, no increase. Okay, so one last time, and we're getting up to 11 single crochets. So chain 1 and turn, 2 single crochets through both loops of the first, and again single crochet in the back loop of each across, and 2 single crochets through both loops of the last. Alright, so now we have our 11 single crochets, and we're on the right side of our work. And now we're going to do one setup row for the main pattern. A chain 2, does not count as a stitch, and turn and place 1 double crochet through both loops of the first, and now work a double crochet this time in the back loop only, in each stitch all the way across up to your last, with 1 double crochet through both loops of the last. And now you should still have 11 stitches. You have 11 double crochets now. Okay, and be sure you don't accidentally count that beginning chain 2. Just fills in the sides, and it gives a good straight edge going up and full stitch to either finish it as is, or if you are adding that extra finishing border on the edge, it gives you a good full stitch to work into and anchor those new stitches without stretching your piece out. Okay, so now into our pattern. We're working post stitches and half double crochets this time. So chain 2, and does not count as a stitch. I'm going to take out my stitch marker, as you will be able to see which is the front and back now, because like I said, that texture is all going to be on the front. Alright, so I'll turn your work 1 half double crochet through both loops of the first 2, so half double crochet in the first, half double crochet in the next, and now work a front post double crochet around the next. Okay? You work a half double crochet in each of the next two. Okay? Front post double crochet around the next, one half double crochet in each of the next two. One more time, front post double crochet around the next, half double crochet in each of the next two, or rather the last two. Okay? And if you need to, you can take your stitch marker, you have your 2 chains up, and just make sure you're placing that in the first half double crochet. That might help you coming around the other side. You can do that at the beginning of the row if you like. So with the stitch count that we have, it's in multiples of 3 plus your half doubles at each end, so you get a good balance, and that way you have the 3 posts running down the center. So you have a good focal point in the center with 1 on each side, and then the 2 half doubles on the end and in between your center posts. So I forgot to tell you, starting the stitch number count again with the main pattern. So we started on the wrong side of the work, row 1, with our all double crochet setup row, and now we worked row 2 with our post stitch row on the right side of the work. Alright, so now for row 3, we're going to chain 2 again, 1 half double crochet in each of the first 2, working through both loops. And now the next is your post stitch, so we're going to work 1 back post double crochet around the front post double crochet. Okay, and the post stitch now, here is the top of your stitch that belongs to the post stitch. Now we go to the next stitch over and we work a half double crochet in each of the next 2. Okay. And there's your next post stitch. So now work 1 back post double crochet around the front post from the previous row, a half double in each of the next 2, your last back post double crochet around the last front post double crochet, and 1 half double crochet each of the last 2 half double crochets, and that is your pattern. Okay, all the way around. Okay, I'll start you off again one more time if you like, because I have some measurement information to give you. Chain 2 and turn, half double in each of the first 2, front post double crochet now around the front post double crochet, 1 half double crochet around each of the next 2 half double crochets, front post around the front post, 2 half doubles, front post around your last front post, and 1 half double in each of the last 2. There's my 1, 2, those chains. Okay, and then back on the right side of the work, and then you work your chain 2 and turn, first 2 half doubles, and then the back post double crochet around the back, or around the front post double crochet, excuse me, 2 half doubles. That's it. This is your pattern. Okay, back post double crochet around the front post, and this is what you repeat over and over. Alright, so to fit your head or to customize the adjustment, depending on whether you have an average, smaller, or larger head size, we continue the length of the main pattern according to your head circumference. And remember now, though, we already have a section here, which is going to be, depending on the gauge of yarn that you used, anywhere from 2.5 to 2 3/4 inches. So you times that by 2, as we have the two sides. That's already going to take up at least 5 inches or so. And then the main pattern will be the rest of that, minus about 1 inch for stretch allowance. Now the ribbing does have some good stretch and recovery to it, but yarn tends to stretch out anyway. So say if you have an average lady's head size of 22 inches, you want your entire piece to be about 21 inches long, which means that the main pattern from where you first started after your rib section is going to be between 14.5 to 15 inches long. We'll bring it up to about 21 inches. So there's your 22 minus 1. And so if you have a smaller head, then you would work the main pattern to 13.5 to 14 inches. And if you have a larger head, then maybe you would work that to about 15.5 inches, somewhere in there. And it doesn't have to be exact. The main thing that I was going for is for ear coverage, because as we come around, you can make up the difference plus or minus on these end stitches. So we do then our decrease, and then if you only need to say do 2 rows of just the rib stitch from where we started, that width of it, then you only do 2. If you, instead of 5, maybe you need 7, then you can do a couple more, and then those two ends will meet and they will be the same on the back. And because of that flexibility, you know, it's nice ideally for it to land, the two ends to land in the center, but it doesn't matter because it all works out the same. And I don't think it's real visible. Can tell where I stopped and started, because I made this a little bit too long to start, so then I had to do less of the rows after I finished my decrease. You just have the same number of stitches going across up and down. Yeah, I only needed to do a couple, and then I sewed my two ends together, and then it all blends really well. And the back on the inside, the way we stitch them together is nice and smooth, and it's just the same continuation of the pattern, so it lays nice and flat. So that way it doesn't have to be exact. You don't have to worry about it. It's all going to work out when you come back around, as long as you have enough space to get your decrease stitches back to the same number where we began on this side, to your 5 single crochets. All right, and have the ear coverage that you want. Alright, so go ahead and work yours, numbers that I gave you, and just be sure to end on the right side of your work. Okay, whatever your length is, end on the right side. It's important, and that'll set us up so that the other side of it, other half, looks the same. I'll do a few more rows, and then I'll show you how to work the decrease. And stitching the two sides together is really easy and fast. You can either do that with a yarn needle, or you can slip stitch it together. Alright, so work yours, come on back, and I'll show you the rest. Okay, I am back. Let's do the decrease. Never hurts to try it on a time or two as you go through, because you can always add in rows or pull back if you want a more customized fit, and especially at the end when you sew the two ends together before you make that final snip. You can try it on one last time if you want. They're such short rows, they're easy to add in and take out. Alright, so decrease row 1 is going to be on the wrong side, and that is now the setup row for working this section. And remember at the beginning we worked a double crochet row, and that was to set us up for the post stitches. But now that we already have the post stitches, we don't need that at this end. So to recreate a similar look, we're going to chain 1, and now we're going to work our single crochet ribbing. Going to begin right now with 1 single crochet through both loops of the first, and single crochet in the back loop of each all the way across, back loop, single crochet up to your last, and you'll place 1 single crochet through both loops of your last, and you should still have 11 stitches now. Okay, here's my last, both loops, should still have your 11 single crochets. And going from the post stitches and half doubles to single already acts as a bit of a natural decrease. Hopefully you can see how the sides are already curving in just a little bit as they did below. Alright, so that's row 1, wrong side. Now for row 2 on the right side, and yes, we're starting our new stitch count over again for the decrease. I like breaking certain patterns up into sections. Okay, now we're going to do our first decrease, chain 1 and turn on row 2, takes us to the right side, and we are going to single crochet the first 2 together, working through both loops. Super easy. Insert your hook into the first single crochet, pull up a loop, into the second single crochet through both loops, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. That's it. Now single crochet in the back loop across up to the last 2 stitches this time. Okay, to your last 2 single crochets, and single crochet those 2 together. Insert your hook through both loops, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the last, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. Now you should have 9 single crochet. Great. Okay, that's row 2. So now row 3, we'll be working on the wrong side of the work, and that is also a chain 1 and turn, and with no decrease this time as we did at the other end. We're just going to work the single crochets across with single crochet through both loops of the first, and in the back loop of each stitch up to your last, and there we go, single crochet through both loops of the last. So now you repeat rows 2 and 3 until you get down to your 5 single crochets. So again, row 2 is going to be a decrease with single crocheting the first 2 and the last 2 together. Alright, chain 1 and turn, insert your hook through both loops of the first, pull up a loop, same through both loops of the second, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3, and then work your single crochets in the back loop across up to your last 2. That quickly, there we are, and single crochet those 2 together, and now you should have 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Excellent. Chain 1 and turn, single crochet through both loops of the first, and now through the back loop of each up to your last. We work 1 single crochet through both loops of that stitch, and now decrease 1 more time, chain 1 and turn, and single crochet the first two together in the back loop of the next 1, 2, 3 stitches, and single crochet together the last 2. Okay, now we are down to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochets. We're on the right side of our work, and ideally we want to end on the wrong side at the very end. We began on the right side. If we end on the wrong side, that's going to give us the continuation of the pattern all the way across when we sew our two ends together. Alright, so you can at this point measure and see what your total length is from side to side, and that will give you an indication of approximately how many more rows, or how close you are at least to getting to your number. So again, if you have an average head size of 22 inches, or whatever your head size is, then minus 1 inch from that. So minus 22 inches, then I would have a total of 21 inches from end to end. And if for some reason landing on the wrong side of the work just adds just a little bit too much in, you can finish up on the right side if you want. It's going to be in the back of your head. I don't think it's going to be that noticeable. So now we're just right back to where we started, where we work just the rib stitch back and forth, no decreases, with 1 single crochet through both loops of the first, single crochet into the back loop of the next 3, and single crochet through both loops of the last. Alright, I'm going to do two more rows. Okay, you have finished. Then you may either cut your yarn, and if you are sewing it in with a yarn needle, you will need a very small amount, and then leave enough to sew in your ends. If you are going to slip stitch, which I'm going to show you, then you'll need at least double that, because that takes up at least twice the amount. But then you don't need to cut it, you can just leave it attached. For both methods, bring your right sides together so the wrong side is facing out. And I'm going to insert my hook through both loops of the stitches on the other side and slip stitch that together, chain 1 and turn. Okay, and now to reinforce that end, I'm going to do that again. Go through 2 loops on both sides of my first stitch at the end and slip stitch. Okay, and now for the other stitches, we're going to work back loop to back loop. Okay. So with the side closest to you, you work into the loop farthest away, and the side away from you again in the loop farthest away. Okay, and then slip stitch together. That's what you're going to do over the next 2. Again, back loop to back loop, pull through both, slip stitch, back loop to back loop, yarn over, pull through, and then through both loops on each side of the last. Okay, here's my tail, and you can chain 1, lock that down. Alright, there we go. That's the inside of the work. So when you're slip stitching, you do have the knot there, a little bit of the knot, and then a bit of a thicker ridge because you're using twice the yarn when you're slip stitching, but to me it still recreates the ridge of the ribbed stitch anyway, and that's the inside of your work. And then to show you the outside of the work, there it is, and it looks just like the pattern, the rest of your pattern going across. And then just cut your ends and carefully sew in your ends, and I like to just connect from each side a little bit on those just loops at the very end, and you can do that on both sides if you want with the end piece here that you cut off, okay, and reinforce that a bit. Alright, well, I hope you like this. Let me know if you're going to make it and wear it, and what your favorite colors are, what kind of yarn. You can have a lot of fun with these and just coordinate them to whatever you're wearing, or just go with the neutral. That will go with so many things. Alright, well, that is it for today. As always, take good care. I appreciate you so much for being here. Let me know what you think, and I hope to see you again next time. Alrighty. Have a great rest of your day and week ahead. Bye for now.